Our guest right now, King Carroll, and of course, yoga. And not only yoga, but going to China. We're going to talk about China today, Kane, and I can't wait to get into this topic. When were you in China?
This was a few months back, earlier this year. I went, we were going to visit Taoist sites. It was a Taoist pilgrimage to China. I was studying along the way, along the trip. Part of the intention was to study this sword form. It's called the Immortal Sword, and it's from Wudong Mountain. So I was learning, practicing meditation and sword form and martial arts along the whole trip. So that just made it even more special to practice those things in their homeland. Yeah. I went with one of my teachers who's from China, and we got to visit mountain areas and old temples and go to visit old Taoist masters that my teacher knew when he was traveling around China studying when he was younger. And we got to have audience with these old masters. So we had one beautiful thing that happened was we had a private concert of music, Chinese music that was live, just played for us. This is an area that we got to go to. This is called Huashan, and it's one of the sacred mountains of China. And you hike up on these granite steps that were carved by hand, way, way up. The altitude is amazing. It kind of reminds me of Yosemite or something, all these granite peaks. And this is a tradition where they lock these locks with a red ribbon onto the chains there. And so people will come, and it's like locking your heart to heaven. So you go up with your partner, and people lock their heart like to heaven, and it's like we're locked for all eternity together in love. So couples go there and do that.
And
ceremony.
They leave the red ribbons
and they leave there. So there's thousands
yours
of
is up there right now.
Well, I didn't go with my partner, so we didn't.
Okay.
You do it. You have to bring your partner and do it together. So
Okay, I see what you're saying.
my wife didn't go.
Okay.
How long a trek is it to get
Well, it took us about 5 hours to get to that point, but we took a gondola halfway up. So if you hike all the way there, it takes you 12 hours or so to get there, but it's straight up the mountain. I mean, literally carved steps in granite.
This I'm not going to do.
This you don't want to do. Check this out.
No.
So this is 4,000 feet up on basically granite slab all the way down into the valley. And you walk on those wooden planks that they've been there.
You walk on those
yeah.
wooden planks.
What are you doing climbing around?
So, I'm a yoga teacher. I got to, play around a little bit.
Wow.
So that, you have to hike that ledge to get to a cave. And there are 72 caves in this mountain called Huashan where people meditated. And the caves are carved straight into granite by hand. They were carved, hundreds of years ago. Wow. And then people would sit in those caves and practice their meditation.
Now, what is the distance on the wooden planks?
It's about 50 feet. You walk on the wooden planks, and then there's just a little piece of rock that you stand on, and then you walk into the cave, and it's all cliff.
You have to be in incredible physical shape to do this.
The hike up was tough. I mean, we just went slow. We had people in our group, young folks, and we had some older folks, and it's tough, yeah. But I mean, there were a lot of people, a lot of older Chinese people go to there and like a pilgrimage. They believe once a year you should climb a tall mountain, breathe hard, and get closer to heaven. It's good for your spirit. So
I tend to agree.
It's a really cool idea.
I can see. When you think about that from a health perspective,
Yeah.
that's so very true.
It is. And once a year, you challenge yourself. You go somewhere beautiful. This was a temple in Xi'an, and this is called the Eight Immortals Temple. And that's a Taoist monk that I'm learning from. And he's teaching me this form called the Eight Immortals hand form. And it's the whole system of hand health that you do, all these movements for your hands and your fingers to keep your hands and wrists really healthy, but it also affects your whole body. And it has some martial art applications too. So we got to go there and study, and the Chinese film crew came because they heard an American group was coming. So this was actually on film, and Xi'an TV, they were filming it, so it's really fun. But I mean, just to get to do that stuff is really rare.
We were talking before you came on, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
It is. I mean, the places that I got to go to, very few Western people have gotten to go to. You just, to find it, you would never find it unless you had a guide.
The availability to find it, or they don't allow that many Americans in?
No, it
or-
was pretty easy to travel once we
Okay.
got in. It wasn't
Okay.
that. It was mostly just not many people know how to get to these places. I mean, like for example, this monk, my teacher went to this temple 20 so years ago, and that monk was living at that temple. He's lived in that temple for like 35 years on top of this mountain. And what his specialty is you see that box there with all the sticks in it. He does a divination. So you ask a question in your mind and you shake that box and one stick falls out. And then each stick correlates to a page in a book. So he opens up the book and reads that page, and that answers your question.
Did you do that?
And so I asked a question.
Okay.
And it was sort of like, what do I need to do when I get home that will better my life, my business, my career, and all of that?
Great question.
And so we opened the book and he read it, and it basically said, don't take into consideration what other people think. Always stay true to your heart and never swerve from your path.
Oh.
It was just boom. You
And
know,
look-
wow.
Kane, your facial expression, you look quite satisfied.
I was just blown away to be there and be able to do that with him. No one else in our group wanted to do it. It was a little intimidating, you know. It's in Chinese, and I just said, you know what, I'm here. It's probably the only time in my life I'll get to be here with this Taoist monk. And so I asked the question, and it was a beautiful experience.